Your Majesties, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for returning. Trust you and yours are well, and you're loving yourself and others like always. Many thanks to all of you for the support you give to the channel. Thank you so much to our channel members, to our anonymous supporters, to all of you, my esteemed subscribers. You're loved, celebrated, and of course appreciated. So 1.4 million Israelis and Ukrainians become South Africans. Okay, and this is not getting the attention it should get. You know, when I talked about Cape Town here, there was a situation, okay? We are all aware that these Europeans have their own town in South Africa where they do not allow melanated people in. We've talked about that time without number here. A lot of times we have that discussion here. So it's not new to you because it's gone viral. There was a time where the Maya had did a video about that, and that video got a lot of attention. So I believe a lot of you are aware that there is a town where it's only the white men who are in the continent of Africa, in South Africa, and they're trying their best to instigate something in Cape Town. And I brought that information here that these people want to create an Israel inside South Africa, and some of you South Africans might not be happy, but the truth is that these people, they don't just do things just at once. There's a way they do and take over places gradually. They begin it gradually. They make you feel like there's nothing wrong. They make you feel like they just need a place to stay. They are vulnerable. But the moment they get their ground, you would know that it's the same people who are acting as if they're vulnerable. And they begin to deal with you. Hmm. Anyway, so that's exactly what we are seeing here. That finally, 1.4 million Israelis and Ukrainians migrated to South Africa, Cape Town, and something is cooking gradually. When I saw this information, my mind went back to the statement that Netanyahu made when he said that when is done liberating Palestine, he will come liberate Africa. Okay, and the churchgoers, those who love to pray for Israel, were so happy that Netanyahu would divert his attention to Africa. That is to say, Africa will be free. There will be no hunger anymore. There are a lot of Africans, just I don't know how some of these people think that the moment Israel is on their case, God is on their case, so they are free. They do not have to worry. The target of these people is not just to have a place to stay. Their target is to have a nation to call their own. So do not think that they are looking for a place to stay. Or they left Israel, they left Ukraine because no of the war, they didn't need a place to stay. No, this is what they will let you believe. A lot of Africans will have it in mind or have this belief that the Israelis are just looking for a place to stay for a time being because of the war happening, or the Ukrainians are just looking for a place to just lay their head. But all this has been a plan that was put in motion even before now, many years before now. You think these people just do things because they want to do it? No. They do it because they had a plan. They had planned it in a way that it would just be happening and then you would think it's coincidence. When they really mean you, they will not just live among you. They would want their independence. You remember when Donald Trump was seriously seeking for a way to migrate some of those prisoners into Nigeria? There were conditions that was given. I don't know how much they were ready to pay the Nigerian government, but there were conditions that was given, and that condition was to give citizenship to those prisoners, to those hardened criminals. Now, they are not just going to South Africa, but they are making their way into becoming South African citizens. You understand? So they will have their ground and operate the way they need to operate. Now, before now, they had already begun to put doubt in the minds of Africans, telling Africans that the black South Africans in Africa are not the originals of South Africa. I brought the information here. I'm still going to leave this clip as this video progresses, so you understand that The way these people had planned this whole thing, it's not just today. They do not just wake up and start migrating to South Africa. It's a laid out plan which they had organized. And there's one thing with this race of people. They can do anything for their race to survive, however, whenever. They can do it. So it doesn't, whether they're going to be alive to see that happen or not, they're going to lay the foundation. And that's why I'm letting you know that this is not something that they just conceived yesterday and then put it in motion today. It's something that had been it's something that had been existing. The plans that have been in motion for a long time. It might not have started with those you know, but it started way back. So already they began to plant some doubts in the minds of people that South Africans, the black South Africans are not the originals. That debate was heated. I think I brought that information here 2 times, and I'm still going to leave it here. Then we talked about, apart from Orania, there is another town, Kleinfontein, where these people are gradually having upper hand in. Orania's, that one is a sure situation. We are all aware of it. It's confirmed. Kleinfontein is like a second Orania that is gradually, building up. And then Cape Town, you see how these people are gradually taking over our continent. You will think nothing is wrong. And South Africans, many South Africans are calling out this situation. South Africa had to be shut down because they don't really know what Ramaphosa is for. Is Ramaphosa for the liberation of the continent? Or is still dancing with these people? Because I don't see why you are a president and this situation is happening. Is there any black people that will go to another man's country and say, okay, I am now the owner. This town is for me. Just a very recent one that still seems somehow. This issue of the Scotland, where we have these Kubala people still struggling to say, okay, they are the owner of Scotland. The Scotland is their inheritance. You see the way the whole world, mainstream media, is frowning at the situation. How can you just come here and say you are the owner, you're a black man? We see that situation. But we will have white people flocking Africa, trying to resettle in countries in Africa. And it will seem as if it's a normal thing. Okay? People will not talk about it. It will not go viral. But then we have a black man going to Scotland and says Scotland is our own, is our inheritance. And it goes viral on the internet. And everybody will be like, is this person running mad? Is something? But white people can come to Africa, right? And capture land. Nobody will see anything. This is a situation that we are faced with. We are seeing all these realities before our faces every day. Things keep happening. Your Majesties. Anyway, I want us to listen to these few informations and you leave your thoughts and opinion there at the section. And then we just have it in mind. Let's bear this in mind that if we do not do anything as Africans, those of African descent, melanated worldwide, South Africa will be recaptured. South Africa will be recaptured. And we already know that we have a country within South Africa already. So they might want to make it look like there is already an existing country within that region. So creating 2 more white countries would not be a problem. And Orania themselves had even gradually cut themselves from the government of South Africa. Or they are at the verge of doing that because there are plans put in place for Orania to be independent because they have their own power plants. They don't use the same power plants that the whole nation uses. They have their electricity, they have their water supply, they have their markets, they have their supermarket, they have their... Everything they need is there in Orania, within that town. They can decide not to go out anywhere. They have their governments. They have their schools. You see what we are saying? And this is how it gradually happens. Anyway, listen to these informations.
Black people are not the original inhabitants of South Africa, which, in fact, they're realizing that now. When they claimed that they owned all the land, the original inhabitants, of whom there are not many left, said, excuse me, we were the original inhabitants. You guys were migrants here as well, which they were. Okay, the original inhabitants of Southern Africa are called the Khoisan. In the West, the Bushmen are Khoisan. Hottentots are Khoisan. But you can't use those words anymore. You now have to call them Khoisan. Okay? All right. Now, and they were the inhabitants of the whole of Southern Africa. So the whole of South Africa at one stage were Khoisan. The black people originated in what is now Cameroon. That's where they...
Hold on, Khoisan aren't black?
No.
What are they?
They're a completely separate ethnicity all on their own. In fact, if you look at them, they're kind of yellowy. They're a light brown yellow color,
right.
But they look more Asian than African. They do not consider themselves African.
Interesting.
When the white guys arrive in Cape Town, so 1652 is when Dutch guys arrived there. At that stage, you could have divided South Africa almost exactly 50-50, what's now South Africa. The western half of the country was entirely Khoisan. There were no black people there. None at all. Only Khoisan. So we're Cape Towners, all that area, Khoisan people. The northern part of the country did have black people. They'd started arriving, and they were still migrating.
How long have they been there in the northern?
Well, it's a moot point, and people have debated it. It would seem that black people had probably started arriving in the northern parts of South Africa, maybe 1,000 years, something like that, about 1,000 years before whites got there, right up in the north. Okay, and they've been slowly moving south because it's an empty space. I mean, one of the things about Africa is it's very empty. Up until the 1950s, Africa was very empty. It's the population exploded because white colonists, the naughty white colonists, put hospitals there, and there's been this huge population explosion since the 1950s. But Africa was really very empty up until then. And so tribes moved around and just occupied new empty territory. So the guys coming down from the north, who called the Bantu, it's called the Bantu expansions, when black people came out of the Cameroons, they'd been occupying South Africa and moving systematically south, down the east coast of South Africa.
They were pastoralists, am I right?
Yeah, they were pastoralists, yeah. Whereas the Khoisan were hunter-gatherers. They were like aboriginals, okay, so they hadn't become pastoralists yet. The black guys are migrating down from the north and settling, doing exactly what white guys are doing. So white guys, the Dutch guys from Cape Town, were settling by moving eastwards. So the white guys are moving from Cape Town eastwards, and the black guys are moving down from the north. And they met at a place called the Fish River, which is now in the middle of South Africa, at a place called, it's still called Border. Everybody in South Africa calls that part of the country the border, even though there's no border there at all anymore. But there was a river called the Fish River, which is where blacks and whites first encountered each other. And then it started 100 years of warfare between whites and the Xhosa, who were the tribe that they met there. So, okay, so at that point, that would have been in about 1700.